The streets these days seem to be full of middle-aged men pounding the pavements in search of a better, and if possible, eternal life. But am I really working hard enough to do me any good? Or on the other hand, am I in danger of joining the ranks of those people who've actually had heart attacks while they were supposed to be keeping fit? And just exactly what's going on inside this rather rusty machine that's me. If we knew exactly what happened to us when we exercise, then it might be possible to make the fit people healthier still, the sick people better, and to anticipate heart trouble long before it happened and much earlier than we can today. Well, this film is about the quest for that knowledge. And it starts with another sign of the times, a Keep Fit class, but not just any Keep Fit class. This one at Huyton near Liverpool seems to enjoy the input of a considerable amount of scientific knowledge. Salford University research is steering these folk between the extremes of not doing enough and doing too much and assessing their limits.
All right, let's stop. Let's find your pulse. Let's see if you're working. Find your pulse. You ready? And count.
Biceps, 4.2.
You're 25% total in body fat. So in other words, you can afford to lose 5% of your total weight as fat weight.
All the people who join are given a pre-course assessment to see what they need and what they can stand.
79.5.
The targets set for them ensure that each individual works hard enough to get fitter, but not so hard that anyone falls counterproductively dead. And it seems to work.
I think we've all benefited from loss of weight and an improved muscle tone.
Yeah.
I'm sure of this. You know, even if you don't lose weight, I think we tend to look better.
Yeah.
Or even if that's our imagination, we feel as though we look better.
Lower them down. Keep moving. Are you ready? Are you ready? And swing them up waist high. Come on, you won't get a job in the Empire. It's all right.
Dr. Jerry Quinn, who drills the Huyton volunteers, is one of a team from Salford University's Human Performance Laboratory, where a lot of unlikely things happen. Runners cover mile after mile and never leave the spot. Swimmers plough their way through 50 lengths and are only ever wet with sweat.
One down there, let's accelerate on the recovery.
And cyclists pedal from nowhere to nowhere.
134. 134.
The Salford Lab was founded 8 years ago and based on established work done in the States on athletes. Head of the Salford team is Dr. Bruce Davis.
The laboratory here started off very similarly with the main intention of working with athletes. But over the last years, of course, we've expanded very rapidly into most of the fields of human movement. And at the moment, we're involved in the energy consumption of spina bifida children. We're very concerned with advising unfit sedentary people about how to correctly get involved with exercise. We're also concerned about the coronary patient, and we're very involved with the rehabilitation of the post-coronary patient. And of course, we're still also very much involved with top-class athletes. We are trying to ensure that each individual person, whether he be a top-class athlete or whether he be a sedentary person, we want to, in some way, make sure that these people can fulfill their maximum potential.
Okay, pop the mouthpiece in here.
But the work at Salford still begins with measuring people with the highest potential, the athletes.
Okay, we want 5-minute warm-up, 90 reps. When you're ready, pick it up. Go.
Ian Binder is one of Britain's Olympic cycle squad, and he's in the process of pedalling himself from normality to an absolute standstill in 12 minutes.
On the 12-minute test, we're particularly looking at the ability of the heart and lungs to supply oxygen to the working muscles. This is one of the limiting factors to performance, the ability to supply oxygen in order to produce energy. And so when fatigue sets in that case, it's the inability of the system to maintain the oxygen supply at the level required by the workload. We're also looking at blood pressure too, because blood pressure, again, the driving force of the heart, also increases in proportion to workload. And then the product of the two, heart rate and blood pressure, gives a good mechanical index of working capacity of the whole cardiovascular system.
What the index is saying is that Ian is reaching his limit. Pouring with sweat, legs and lungs hurting abominably, he starts to lose control. The wheels wobble so that he has to be held onto the bike.
Hand on, put your hand on.
Finally, his overtaxed cardiovascular system calls a halt. People are always talking about the cardiovascular system in the human performance lab. It simply means the heart and the circulatory system that play such a vital part in the working of the human engine. In fact, we're remarkably like car engines. As soon as I start to run, or in fact do any work, my muscles are converting fuel into movement. That's just one kind of energy into another. The fuel, of course, isn't quite the same as a car's, although it is in fact various forms of carbohydrates, which is what petrol is. But it's carried to the muscles by the blood. And so the harder I work, the faster my heart will beat, and the more blood is pumped around. But as well as carrying fuel, the blood's carrying oxygen. And that's absolutely essential because unless there's oxygen in the muscles, they can't convert the fuel. They can't use that fuel at all any more than a car engine will run unless there is air around to mix with the petrol in the combustion chambers. It's the same with any fuel. Here, the candle wax burns to provide light and heat, and then the oxygen supply is cut off, and once the stored oxygen in the jar is used up, the flame simply goes out. There's still fuel available, plenty of wax left, but the waste products that now fill the jar where there was oxygen before won't support burning. Of course, there are waste products in my muscles too from the burning up of that biological fuel. What normally happens is that the body breaks them down into other chemical substances, and eventually I expel them as carbon dioxide whenever I breathe out. And whenever I breathe in, I get fresh supplies of oxygen, which are transferred to the blood in the lungs, and that reoxygenated blood is sent down to the muscles to carry on the good work. Quite quickly, though, especially with an inefficient body, I just can't get enough blood carrying enough oxygen down to the muscles to do the job properly, and the waste products, principally lactic acid, start to build up. So, muscles start to hurt, and in the end, they just grind to a standstill. After 5,000 metres, the shortness of breath, the difficulty in talking and the tiredness of leg was hardly unexpected. My basic mistake was to have stopped any competitive running 24 years ago, since the secret of keeping going seems to be to keep going. These men are all fell runners. The oldest, well into his 60s, the youngest, a 19-year-old, and all more capable of keeping going than I am. The race, the Pendle Hill Fell Run, is over a 4.5-mile stretch of the Lancashire Pennines. It doesn't sound a lot, but it's the kind of going that causes the strain, and the speed. The record, 4.5 miles in under 30 minutes. The early stages, by these men's standards, are fairly easy going, but soon the gradient goes up to 1 in 6, and the runners string out. 2 miles into the race, they're at 1,000 feet and up in the clouds. The club members have run in all weathers over the last 12 months, not just for sport, but to help another of Salford's projects. The decision to examine the fell runners' physiology came from researcher David Simpson.
Sprinters and middle distance runners and marathon runners are fairly well researched and documented. But as far as we're aware, no one anywhere has done any work at all on fell runners. So from that point of view, it's interesting. And also, it's interesting to see how these men physically and physiologically stand up to the terrific strains imposed by running fast and uphill.
After a brief downhill section, the runners meet this, the most savage part of the course. The trail climbs 1,000 feet to the peak of the hill at an angle of 45 degrees. It's here that a slightly mysterious technique comes into play. The good runners keep themselves close to their threshold, but they never exceed it. If they did, the accumulated waste products in their muscles would stop them, and they'd have to wait to go on until their systems could clear the lactic acid. Harry Walker certainly has that technique. Unlike the rest of us, he likes it better the steeper it gets.
Just do a quick blood sample, Harry, and I'll be on your way.
In the middle of the race, we limit our sampling to taking a small thumb prick. It's only a drop of blood. And we analyse that for lactic acid. Before and after the race, of course, we take physical measurements, urine samples and blood samples from a vein, and also the thumb prick so that we can compare the lactic acid levels before, after and at the middle.
Good quality stuff.
It is, yes, good colour.
All the blood samples collected before, during and after the race will be whisked back to Salford University and analysed. What they're after are tiny amounts of chemicals that are released into the bloodstream by an overtaxed or damaged muscle. These enzymes and isoenzymes are quite specific to one kind of muscle or another, so that if the heart has been overworked, the chemical evidence can be found by a careful analysis of the blood samples. The hope is that they can use the technique to predict any given individual's risk of suffering a heart attack merely by analysing his blood.
Right, that's it. Thanks. On the scales. Shoe. Yes. That's on the scale. That's 78 kilograms, Sue. You lost a kilogram. Okay, thank you.
But there's more to a runner's physiology than blood, and while many of the laboratory experiments couldn't be taken on a hillside, reproducing fell running conditions on a treadmill has its problems too. So they've had to create a special protocol that attempts to simulate the sort of speed and distance and angles that a fell runner would encounter in a real race. Without the elaborate and expensive technology of the modern physiology lab, it wouldn't be possible. But they're reasonably happy that they've got a mechanical simulation so that they can measure Harry's performance, as it were, on the fells. He runs at about 14 kilometres per hour, a reasonable speed on the level. But every 2 minutes they raise the treadmill by another 1.5 degrees of steepness, and he just runs up an ever-increasing slope until he can't run any more. What's happening to Harry Walker on the treadmill is what would happen to all of us. The difference is that at 14 kilometres an hour and on a steadily steepening gradient, you or I would last 2 or 3 minutes. Harry will keep going for more than 20. The red line here is the amount of oxygen being delivered to his muscles. The green line is the oxygen going to the muscles of an averagely unfit individual. As the workload increases, in this case as the slope of the treadmill gets steeper, more and more oxygen is delivered to meet the demand from the muscles. But it's not long before the ordinary man's system just can't deliver any more, whatever the demand. The athlete's oxygen supply also levels out eventually, but it can keep up with a much greater workload. These lines show the levels of lactic acid in the two types. At first, it's a tiny amount, but as the workload increases and the oxygen isn't there to clear it, the unfit individual feels it piling up quite early on. There's a set level of lactic acid that any human body can tolerate. Once it reaches that level, the anaerobic threshold, the whole system gets a spanner in the works and the body can't go on. The average man reaches his threshold as the workload increases, but the athlete's better oxygen supply allows his acid to be kept down for longer.
60.6, Bruce. 10 seconds, Harry will be increasing the slope again. 15 minutes coming up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring up, Harry. Now. 15 minutes you've had, Harry. Dig in. Oxygen 62.5 and his heart rate's 170. Seconds. Come on now, hang in there. 15 seconds. That's 21 minutes, Harry.
But that remarkable 21 minutes is it.
Come on, dig
The
in,
treadmill starts to carry him away as the recorder chatters out the news that Harry is breathing out more carbon dioxide than he's breathing oxygen in. He's passed his threshold.
Keep running, walk with it. Good lad. Keep walking, Harry, keep walking. Well run, good run. Good run. Start it off again now. Just walking. Walk it out. Keep walking. Stretch your legs out, relax. Just breathing going. Good man. Good run, Harry, well done.
The other benefit of a super-efficient cardiovascular system is that it returns its owner to normality in an amazingly short time. Where the average man would be on his knees, Harry is actually running again. Where the average man would be speechless for half an hour, Harry is talking about his performance.
I was trying to do that extra bit, but I couldn't. Well, I decided, I got it to my mind to do it, and then I just, well, machine went, I went.
You were going, that was a good max. That was a really good max.
Oh, I see what you mean. The mind had said go on, but the body couldn't.
While Harry Walker sets his eyes on the hills, Karen Millwall is just trying to get a little nearer to a normal life in her struggle against the problems of spina bifida. For 7 years now, she's tried out each modification of this swivel walker designed and built by Salford's Department of Mechanical Engineering. John Griffiths is an orthopaedic surgeon who's hoping that Salford can help with some of the problems that accompany this form of disablement.
One of the difficulties is that they are paralysed so that they have to be supported in a vertical position or even in a sitting position in some kind of apparatus. And to carry this extra weight around as well as to move themselves about requires more effort and energy than it would do for you or I, because we are complete and we are efficient mechanically. So that calipers are used, but many of the traditional calipers are extremely hard work to use, very energy consuming, require the use of crutches, and the patient can't travel very far without getting tired. The swivel walker is probably more efficient. We think it is because the patients use them with considerable facility, but we don't know absolutely certainly how much energy they do use. It's a completely unknown field, so we have been trying to measure the oxygen consumption while using the device to see whether, in fact, what we think is the case is in fact the case.
Is that all right?
It's good.
Okay. Right, we start walking now.
Karen clearly couldn't manage a treadmill, but the Salford physiologists have to be sure that her workload this time is the same as every other test so that they can make a real comparison. Karen keeps up with a small electric trolley that runs at a preset speed, and so her speed is set too. Her heart rate shows up on a mobile counter, and the huge rubber balloons collect the carbon dioxide that she breathes out. Put together, the data will tell them whether the Department of Engineering's latest modification is making moving around easier or harder for Karen and for her fellow spina bifida sufferers.
Come on, normal pace, one or two of you have slackened off.
Sometimes disablement shows, sometimes it doesn't. Not so long ago, these men hardly dared to walk at all.
I thought I was doing all the right things. I read quite a bit of scientific literature. I was taking margarine, fat-free things, doing exercise. In fact, I was jogging when I had my heart attack, strangely enough.
On the night before, a perfectly normal day playing golf.
Yeah.
And the following morning, crunch, the big cramp.
And on the way down this hill, I just felt this tightness. And somehow or other, I don't know, I just recognised it as a sign. I said, keep cool to myself. I got the tanker home. We couldn't get the doctor, thank goodness. And we got the ambulance. And that was it.
Stock controller, lorry driver, physicist, neurosurgeon. All these men have had heart attacks. So how can they dare to stretch and jog? And how can the instructor risk pushing them? The answer is only by first assessing how each of them will react to exercise.
Stretch, that's good. Chin on knees, along the floor, and stretch.
Each individual's ability to take physical stress is measured under close medical supervision because the well-being of the post-coronary patients is the shared responsibility of three closely cooperating elements: Preston Polytechnic, the Human Performance Laboratory, and Preston Infirmary's Cardiac Rehabilitation Unit. Head of the medical team is Dr. Douglas Watt.
The idea of the stress test is to give us information about how a patient will be able to stand up to exercise when he comes onto our rehabilitation program. For this, we gradually increase the amount of activity that's being demanded of him, and we study both his heart action on the electrocardiogram and record his blood pressure and his pulse rate during this time. We use arbitrary levels of targets for the heart rate and aim to achieve this heart rate during the test. If a patient reaches this target during the test uneventfully, then we know that he should be able to exercise to that level without trouble on the program.
That's good. Just concentrate now on getting your pulses up to your target heart rate. You know how many laps to do before you get there. Check them out as normal.
When I was a student, we made patients lie in bed flat on their backs for 6 weeks. And then we allowed them to do nothing at all after that when they returned to so-called normal activity. And this has gradually progressed over the years until we're at the stage now where we aim for early mobilization, for rapid rehabilitation and a return to completely normal life. We have been forced to shorten the period of time that patients are kept immobile, largely because of pressure on hospital beds. And by sheer chance, it has turned out to be very much to the patient's benefit to become mobile earlier.
And rest. Excellent. Just last exercise now for the shoulders. Up onto your feet again. Arms circling, double arm circling. And relax. That's good. Okay. Can you check your pulse now? Just to check that it's not gone above your target heart rate.
As the weeks go by, the post-coronary patients push themselves a little bit harder and a little bit harder, every step carefully logged. And how much difference does it all make?
I certainly felt like a cabbage when it first happened, very apprehensive about doing anything at all, going out or just managing to walk short distances at the start. I got to know about this course quite accidentally because somebody at work was on the course at that time. I'd had a heart attack about the same time that I did, and I applied and was fortunate to get on it.
I can remember Peter coming here, and believe me, some night we nearly carry him round this gym. He was that frightened.
Work was something that I was terrified of, I suppose near a nervous breakdown. I started here, and within 1 month of coming here, realised that life hadn't finished, of course, and 3 months after starting here, back to normal. In fact, a lot fitter than I've ever been, perhaps for 10 years.
You see the difference now? It's a winner all the way.
I think that we can say that the courses have been very successful indeed. It's very difficult to quantify success in this sense. The psychological benefit to the patient has certainly been enormous, and even those who seem to have benefited perhaps not obviously physically have benefited enormously emotionally and psychologically. We cannot say that life is prolonged. We can say that the quality of life is improved. That's good.
It's the quality of life in many different areas that Salford's Human Performance Laboratory is aiming to improve as it answers the questions created by our infirmities and our ambitions. Will these blood tests reveal a chemical tracer that will identify people at risk before they have their heart attacks? Is this swivel walker progressing towards the lightest, strongest and most efficient the engineers can devise? Are all athletes born with a gold medal potential, or does the super athlete have to choose his own parents? Can we all improve our potential and then reach it?
Come on, let's move. Come on, let's move. Come on. We're asleep tonight. Come on.